This meeting is being recorded.
Well, welcome everyone to the April 2022 koha-US General Meeting. It's good to see everybody here. And let's see, do we have a link for the chat link we can put in the chat for the agenda? There it is, wonderful. So we'll start off with, does anyone have any announcements? Okay. So our first item is Koha Community Challenge. So we are in week 2, I guess, of the Koha Community Challenge. If you have not signed up yet, there is still time to do that. Last I checked, I think there were about 61 participants. So if you sign up, you can see that people are out there. They're walking, running, biking, getting outdoors, getting fit. So it's a great fundraiser for koha-US. So there's still 2 weeks, two and a half weeks left in April. Not too late to join and get in on the fun.
I did join. I just haven't registered what I'm actually doing.
Hey, that's okay.
But I am undertaking the project that I intended to, which it doesn't really have much to do with fitness, but neither did spend 3 hours a week reading a book last year. That's strength training.
Anything anybody else wants to say about the community challenge or have any questions about the community challenge? All righty. So next thing is KohaCon 22 update. If you haven't heard yet, koha-US will be presenting the KohaCon conference this year. It's in Lawrence, Kansas, and it is September 20th through 23rd. It's going to be a hybrid conference, same as we've done in the past. So you can attend in person, you can attend online. So the conference committee had sent out a survey to kind of gauge people's attendance, you know, whether they thought they would be coming in person or not. And as these surveys often go, I think we had about 50 responses. And 26 people told us that they thought they would be coming. So in the end, that survey really didn't tell us much of anything. But we are looking, we originally planned it to be hosted at Lawrence Public Library, but we're still considering looking at another venue in Lawrence. You know, thinking about, well, how many people may actually come, even though they haven't answered that survey. And also, George had mentioned that perhaps the other venue we're looking at might be a better fit anyway. So we're considering another venue. We don't have complete information on that yet, but it would still be right in that Lawrence downtown area, I guess you'd call it. We have launched the KohaCon 22 website. We've put a link for it on our conferences page on the koha-US website. Jennifer, do you think you could find that link and maybe put it in the chat so people can see it and they can know where to go? It's not got a lot of information in it right now, but as conference committee gets more and more, we will continue to add to that site. So that's going to be your place to go to get information about the Koha-Con that will be in September. And this year's theme is Level Up. So after this meeting, we will have a conference meeting, and we're going to start talking about sort of one of our next steps is to consider to put out a call for presentations. So I encourage everyone to start thinking about the wonderful presentation that you can make and share your knowledge, your trials, tribulations with Koha, anything you know you've done is worth sharing. We talked about sort of our level up theme is like, what have you done with Koha to improve yourself, enhance your library, elevate your community, advance Koha. So it's not too early to start thinking about making a presentation at this year's Koha-Con. Anything else anybody would like to say about this year's upcoming conference?
It's going to be great.
It is going to be great. I'm excited.
Sorry I'm late. Were there any questions for any of the NEKLS staff since we're kind of hosting it?
We talked about looking at a different venue, and that nobody really answered our, are you going to come or not? So that didn't give us much information. And we talked about the theme, and we've got a link to the website.
And I can put a link in the chat box here. This is almost certainly the venue where we will be having the conference.
And if you go there and look at that website, it looks like an excellent location, wonderful facility. I think it'll make a really great conference venue. So any other questions about the conference? Anything you want to say or know about the upcoming conference? Okay. So the next thing on the agenda is mission statement. So it had been brought up that koha-US didn't really have an actual mission statement, and we should probably have one. So the board has discussed that, and we have drafted something, and we're going to mull it over and revisit it at the next board meeting. And then if we feel like we're good with it, is that something we have to put out as a vote and have approved by the membership? Shows you what I know.
I don't believe so.
Okay. So we will consider that mission statement at the next meeting, and then we will put out the wonderful thing that we have come up with for everyone to see. So any questions about that? Y'all are quiet today. Okay, so the next thing is board vacancies. So we've been looking at, we've had a treasurer vacancy on the board for a while, and we now have the financial manager role that John is filling. but we still would like to, get someone into that treasurer role. And so one of the things we're working on is trying to define better the responsibilities of the treasurer versus the responsibilities of the financial manager. And then that led into sort of a larger discussion of maybe needing to really define the responsibilities for all of the positions. There are some things in the bylaws, but then there are things that I think have just been done, and then they've historically sort of been part of a position. So we were wanting to get a more definite, here are the responsibilities, and also as a way for, if you would like to serve on the board, knowing, kind of what your role is and that kind of thing. So Christopher and I have met a couple of times, and we've gone through each of the board positions, and we've tried to start kind of pinning down, what the responsibilities of each of those board positions is. And with the goal also of getting it on the website so that, anybody can click on it and see, well, what's expected of the president, what's expected of the treasurer, those kinds of things. And then we're also kind of working on a sort of 10 reasons you should consider being on the koha-US board, because you get an awful lot by serving on the board, and you stretch yourself and you do things that you haven't ever done before, and you learn new skills and you meet a lot of people. So we were coming up with sort of a, there are all of these wonderful things you gain by actually serving on the board. And a lot of this goes to the sustainability of the koha-US board. We've got a lot of people who have been very involved, and they've been on the board and they've served their time, and we need to continue getting new faces on the board so that the organization is sustainable into the future. So that's the whole reason we're working on those kinds of things. And also we wanted to promote the thought of serving on the board, get it out there in people's minds a lot earlier in the year. I think we generally open the positions September, October, I'm thinking, but we were thinking, that's, here's September, October. It's like, do you want to serve in the board? And you're thinking, I've never thought of doing that. And then the holidays come, and, so we're wanting to sort of get the thought of serving on the board out there a little bit earlier in the year, so people can really start thinking about it and, considering how they could contribute and be involved. And I think that's mostly what we talked about, but if other people on the board have things that I've missed, please chime in.
No, I think that was a very accurate assessment of the discussion we had at last week's board meeting.
Okay, good. Any questions about serving on the board?
I would just say that I am not on the board currently, but serving on the board is fun. I had fun during the time I was on the board, and everybody in koha-US is great to work with. It's valuable to be involved. If you're looking to build things on your resume, it's an easy way to do that. Being on the board is fun.
Yep, I enjoyed it. Also, I used it service to get a Medical Library Association designation, which was kind of fun to have. And I'm looking at the chat. And there's the way I ensured that there would be a replacement is, okay, you're unsupported, your turn. Maybe current board members could recruit their replacements. And, if you don't serve, it's going to be me again.
Well, and I think some of the current or just previously off the board members have gotten out there and kind of, talked to people to be replacements. But we'd like to see, I think in the last election and maybe the one before, we really had only one person running for a position. It'd be really great if we actually had, 2 or even 3 maybe, so that, we've got a real election going, and, it's exciting and it makes your vote count and all those kinds of things. So I task everyone with thinking about serving on the board, or maybe someone else at your library or even a different library that you think would be great. Promote it to them. Okay, so conference committee, our first report, and I've really reported on it unless anybody else has thought of any follow-up questions or anything about this year's upcoming conference.
As far as the location goes, I can say that SEKLS is kind of the middle sized location. It's the bigger location that's available in Lawrence is huge, and I don't think there's enough interest that we need to have that location. But the original location we had planned for, Lawrence Public Library, is going to be too small if we're also going to be the international conference. So SEKLS is kind of in between, and that's why I'm pursuing them. They have actually taken all of our information and they're putting together a proposal. I was hoping it would be done by today, but so far nothing has shown up in my email, and I had to take an emergency day off yesterday, so I haven't been able to contact them to see if I can figure out what the holdup is. So, but I think SEKLS is going to be the location.
And if you're not familiar with Lawrence, it's close to the Kansas City airport, am I correct? Which is
the Kansas City airport is about 45 miles away. And what I'm hoping to do, unfortunately, there are no hotels in Lawrence that have a bus service to the airport. But what I'm hoping to do is, we have 51 libraries in our consortium. And so what I'm hoping to do is to recruit librarians in the area to volunteer to shuttle people if necessary. There of course is always Uber and Lyft and taxis, and there is a shuttle there was a shuttle service a few years ago. I don't know if they're still there because of COVID, but I'm going to try and track down their information again too. Worst case scenario, you're riding in the back of my pickup.
Will I have to share that with your dog?
Don't have a dog.
okay, so our next committee report is development. Christopher, do you want to do that, or would you like me to?
Go for it.
Okay, so we met recently, and let me turn over to the minutes so that I can refresh myself. Hold on just a moment. Okay, so we have the first development that koha-US funded, which is the account lines description. And it has been signed off and it's waiting for QA. So we're going to, kind of monitor that. Hopefully it'll move into QA soon, and then, go on its way. The development we're working on right now is the being able to delete a patron, being able to delete a message on their account. And we've been working with Auto Parallel Technologies is the developer on that one. And they had submitted their work, and then there was some follow-up that needed to be done. And while we were waiting for them to do that follow-up, another party came in and submitted a patch that fixed some of the follow-up that Auto Parallel was going to do. So I think there's still something called unit tests, which needs to be done. And I don't even know what that is, but it's something that needs to happen. So I think we're at the point where we are considering that Auto Parallel has fulfilled their responsibility for developing this particular bug, and we're ready to go ahead and pretty much ready to go ahead and pay the final cost to them. Then let's see, other things we worked on is contracts and wanting to develop procedures, better procedures for the whole development workflow and for the contracts. So we're working through contracts should be reviewed by the committee before signing, should include a detailed explanation of the work process and expectations to completion. Koha-US should provide a statement of work and have that signed by both parties before reviewing and signing the contract. We were lucky because Bywater shared with us a statement of work that we can use as a basis to develop, what we want to use. And basically that contract should either detail the information in the statement of work or refer to the details outlined in the statement of work. So we're wanting to really pin that down so that all parties understand what's expected. That was not much of a problem with Bywater because they're so, they're in this process. They already know what's going on and what's expected. But when you're working with a new developer, that's something that really needs to be defined. And then looking at like the statement of work should include timelines and requests for updates. Let's see what else. And then other business we took care of were, let's see, we've got upcoming proposals, reviewing the proposal form that we'll put out there for people, and trying to develop a different form and handling it differently. And that's kind of the gist of what our meeting was. So any questions for the development committee? Anybody else that was there wants to chime in on anything? Were you the only other person there, Jason? Was it just the three of us?
Yeah, I think it was just Christopher and you and I.
Okay. Okay, so let's see. Okay, education committee, George.
I actually was out of town
That's right.
at the last meeting, and so Christopher chaired that meeting. It sounded like he isn't feeling well.
He is not feeling well, so and I wasn't there. So is there anybody else that was at the education committee that could give us any?
I was there, but it was like 3 years ago. So I don't remember
Yes.
what we talked about.
All of my
actually-
meetings are like that.
Christopher did keep notes on the agenda, and I've got those open. It looks like the website development was talked about. My phone's ringing. Jason walked through recent changes to the website. There was a talk about the disconnect between the Learn menu and the actual page. They talked about dividing Learn into 2 pages at some point, between resources and a more guided approach on a page for beginners. Then they talked about content development after the website part was over. They talked about the Koha skills collaborators and changing how the registration form is constructed. And for 2022, we will have a basic skills form that will be linked in the current membership form. And then in 2023, I imagine, with the idea being that in 2023, there'd be a new registration form completely. There was discussion about webinars and videos. And I see the word skipped and skipped.
So I remember this meeting now. It was me and Christopher and Lauren to start, and then Lauren had to leave. So it was just Christopher and I talking about the website for most of the meeting.
I think I
Okay.
was there for a few minutes. Is that the one
Yeah.
where I came in from a parking lot somewhere in South Carolina?
Oh yeah. We got Fred from a van or something for a few minutes. So yeah, it was mostly just talk about the website, and improvements have been, some of the improvements have been pushed out. So if you haven't checked those out, check out the Learn page. We put out the tile browse and reorganized the top level menus and that sort of thing. But we're still kind of working on sort of the core organization of it, and there's still more changes to come.
I'm trying to look and see when the next meeting is, and I don't have it on my schedule, which is weird.
I'm thinking May 18th.
We should have one this month. It should be April 20th.
Oh, still this month. Okay.
Yeah, I think it should be April 20th, but I don't have it on my calendar on the 20th. So it'd be the 20th at the same time as this meeting, I believe. 10:30 a.m. Central Time, so 11 Eastern, 10:30 Central, 9:30 Mountain, 8:30 Pacific. And I'll send an agenda out for that on Monday or Tuesday.
Okay, so let's see. Finance Committee, John.
Thanks to Jennifer for including a link to the monthly Finance Committee report within the agenda, as she always does. 36 members in good standing as of the end of last month. Financially, if you take a look at the PNC summarization, most of the income we get this time of year is related to membership. But if you take a look at March numbers, you'll see over $1,000. Most of those are the weekly deposits that we get from one sign up with regard to the Koha Community Challenge. And the expense that you see of $1,100 is the $1,100 we've paid to ALA for space at the upcoming annual conference. With regard to other matters, we do have an assigned space now at ALA booth, and I use the term booth loosely here because we are not in an actual booth, rather a small press table, 965. Like all of the people that are not allowed to sell things under contract with ALA, given the type of area that we have, we are assigned to the backs and the sides, like the artists and the others that have signed up for small press tables. If you're interested in volunteering because you'll be in the area for ALA or live in the area, Fred, information on how you can sign up to volunteer at our small press table will be coming soon. For those that are not aware, the exhibition dates at ALA are June 24th through 27th inclusive, with only a very small amount of time on Friday and a shortened day on Monday. It's my fervent hope that we will have somebody at the table half of the time, at least half of the time. I know especially some of these smaller people that have these small press tables, they dump stuff on the table on Friday, they don't come around that really defeats the whole purpose of this. Remember, our goal here is to hand out literature. God, I sound like a Jehovah's Witness. Our goal here is to hand out literature, demonstrate our demonstration instance, which is why we have it, and answer general questions that people might happen to have about Koha from a non-vendor perspective. Bywater can handle all the vendor perspective stuff, but we can provide a much more open view because we have no financial stake involved in here, of course. And of course, we're hoping to be able to get new members as well. That's it for ALA. As Barbara mentioned, the Koha Community Challenge is in full swing. Through the end of March, koha-US had received $983.69. Like with last year's event, there is what is called a holdback. That is money that is put in reserve in case people cancel their registrations or whatnot. We will get that holdback money, whatever it is, in its entirety within 8 weeks after the end of the event. And Barbara provided much more accurate numbers than I had. I only had 47. The number's in here somewhere. Yeah, 47. So Barbara's count of 61 shows that people are still signing up, and I encourage you to do so. In fact, I still haven't signed up. I forgot all about it until reading my own minutes for the board here. It was a lot of fun last year, and our continued thanks to Bywater Solutions for their sponsorship, not only of the event generally, but also the back end that allows us to do all of the work like the registration and the information gathering. Other more boring things, we did receive our Amazon Smiles quarterly fund transfer. It was $57.12 for a lifetime total of just under $1,800. That is slightly lower than it had been for any of the quarters in 2021, but that's the way this works. We don't know how many people have signed up koha-US to be their charity of choice. We know how much has been received in the past, but we never know how much is coming until we actually get it quarterly within our coffers. And I thought Fred would include an apology, which he just did. Thank you, Fred. With regard to looking to the future, next month's report will include the first quarter synopsis for 2021. And oh my God, I did this all week. I've been writing 2021. It'll include the first 2022 quarter. I know everybody's looking forward to that. Please just contain your excitement just a little bit more. That will be part of the May report. And as always, we're looking for new Finance Committee members. If you have an interest, just feel free to contact me, treasurer@koha-us.org, and I'll be glad to fill you in. Are there any questions from anybody? If silence is golden, then I'm rich. That's it from the Finance Committee.
Thank you, John. And of course, we still have fundraising. Chair is vacant, so we have nothing to report there. So we've gone through this so fast that we have like 25 minutes, and we can have open discussion. We can talk about bugs, issues, frustrations, amazing things you've done, whatever.
Well, I'm sort of working on something, but I think it's better brought up that the cataloging SIG, since it's all cataloging.
Don't leave us in suspense.
Oh, all right. Well, as part of what I am doing for the fitness challenge, I'm spending 3 hours a week on unpacking and stuff, and at least 1 hour of which, and it's turning to 3, organizing my book collection and putting it into Koha from a spreadsheet. And this might end up as something that I could present in September. With colleagues. But right now, I haven't done any weeding, but so I'm just working on the cartoon book collection. And that's sort of just one way. They're not going out. And I took all the ISBNs from the spreadsheet, ran them through, and I'm cheating a bit, OCLC. And for some of them, I'm getting, let's say, 14 records. And I'm looking for an easy way without going through 3,000 records, I think, or 1,200 biblios to either combine or choose the best records of the multiple copies. Has anyone tried this? Anyone have any idea what I'm talking about?
I haven't tried it, but one thing you might look at is in the 040 field, if the records are coming from OCLC, is the presence of DLC, because that indicates a Library of Congress record.
Yeah, really should have been able to write this down. 040, look for DLC. And probably a few others too.
Yes. And the in OCLC records, there's a fixed field encoding level that can indicate a high quality versus minimal level record. And I'll pop a link to the bibliographic formats and standards from OCLC into the chat where you could look up these fields and values as OCLC interprets them.
And see, Mark Edit could select the 040 with the DLC and put it in a separate file, right?
I think so, yeah.
Gee, some of you think I really understand what I'm doing here. Learning.
We're always learning. That's what we do together.
I'm only an egg. Sad things. Probably that's a cultural reference. No one understands.
So anybody have any bugs they want to talk about or thoughts for enhancements, or this is your chance. We usually don't have so much time.
I'll try to talk a little bit here. Sorry. Been fighting a sinus infection here, so I don't sound the greatest here. One thing that I'm working with BioWater on is trying to nail down something with the OPAC. We've been seeing that if you do a purchase suggestion, if you're a part of a consortium, we're finding that the home library is defaulting to the top library. This is something that happened a long time ago. I don't remember if this is something in purchase suggestions or another aspect of Koha, but things are defaulting to, the purchase suggestions are defaulting to the first library. And I've gone in and put in some jQuery to hard code that and make it so that they can't switch that, but we're still finding that falling through the cracks. I don't know if it's people have their JavaScript turned off and bypassing that, or if they're the JavaScript is getting hung and they're filling out the page before it catches up, or what. But we're getting a lot of purchase suggestions that should go to other libraries ending up in our first library. So we don't have a bug out on the net yet that I can recall. I could be wrong. I have no head today. But just wanted people to be aware of that, because that's kind of an annoyance right now with our people that are handling the purchase suggestions.
There is a bug for it, it looks like, and I've just put it in the chat box. And it looks like there's a bug and it's been pushed to stable. And you filed it, Christopher, so.
Shows you where my head is at right now.
Okay.
I will mention too that there was a bug that was really hard to nail down. Barbara, you've seen it. We've talked about it. It's that bug where some of the drop-down preferences are, when you look in Koha, in the admin, the control is barely existing. It's like really thin and you can't do anything with it and you can't read it. That has to do with the controls that look like text boxes, but when you click on it, it turns into check boxes that you check off certain choices. We were running into that where and this would happen mostly in Chrome, where the control would show up just fine in our tests or on our production server, but it would be affected in our test server. And another library was having the opposite effect, that was happening on their production server, and their test server looked just fine. Right now, it looks like that bug is, I don't know, it's just all over the place. We've had developers look at the exact same servers and they couldn't reproduce the problem. And I'm chalking it up they have the same version of Chrome and everything, and I'm chalking it up to it's probably a bandwidth issue, where that control is trying to get some information and determine how wide it's supposed to be, and it is creating itself before it has all the needed information. And because the information is not there yet when it creates the control, it just defaults to 2.22222 pixels in width. So I had written a jQuery to put that at a fixed width of, I don't know, I think it was 250 pixels, and that was fine. I took that off the other day when we were trying to confirm some stuff and found that the controls are just doing that now on their own. They're defaulting to 250 pixels in width. So just a really bizarre thing with those controls, and we're still trying to nail down some explanation on that, and it's hard to reproduce, but it's an annoying issue right now.
And I put the bug in the chat. It's 30248. And it is very strange. We had a problem with it in some previous version, and so I know I put some jQuery or some CSS or something in there to fix it. And then I would see it happen to some other element. But I took my jQuery out and it's fine on my site, but I went to the koha-US demonstration site, and the problem, you can see the problem there. And it's, we're running the same version of Koha. I'm using Chrome as my browser. There was something else. It's like everything seems the same, and yet it's displaying differently.
It seems to only happen in Chrome for us. We're the library that has it on our production server, but not our test server. And I've always been able to use it in Firefox, but with Chrome, I can recreate it pretty consistently.
Slight tangent, if I may. Is there any browser that is specifically recommended for Firefox or that is not recommended? I know a lot of places are saying this is not compatible with Internet Explorer. Don't even try. I've always used Firefox.
I think Firefox is basically sort of the recommended for Koha. Our site is pretty much Chrome, so that's what we use. Our library is Chrome.
We use
The
Chrome.
big- Oh, go ahead, Ben.
Well, we use Chrome as well because there are some printing issues in Firefox, not Koha related, that nobody cares to fix. So it's Chrome if we want to print anything.
The issue in the past with Internet Explorer was that Internet Explorer didn't strictly follow the HTML standard. And so Koha needed the HTML standard to be met in order to work properly. And Internet Explorer had its own thing going on. So that was the issue there. And I don't know that that's true anymore because Internet Explorer doesn't really exist anymore. It's now Microsoft Edge. And I think it's based off of Chrome. So I don't think that might be as big of an issue anymore. What I'm noticing, I haven't experienced this bug, but what I'm noticing is that all of these selects that seem to be affected are the jQuery select to boxes. So what I've had issues with is that sometimes with the jQuery select, if things don't load in the proper order, if they don't load sequentially, that can cause problems like this. And so I'm willing to bet that that's part of the issue, is that things aren't loading in the same order for all the selects, and that's probably the issue.
And just to reference the official documentation on Fred's question, they do say using an up-to-date version of Firefox or Chrome are your best options, and they don't support Internet Explorer. But if you only use Microsoft products, Edge is okay. I put that link in the chat.
Thank you.
As Ben said in the chat, Edge is mostly based off of Chrome now too. So you're pretty safe with most of the modern browsers anymore. I know Internet Explorer was the exception in the past, and that's gone away. So the three standards today are pretty safe, but Firefox has its printing issues, and of course we're running into some display issues with Chrome, but for the most part things are pretty stable across all three.
What printing issues are you having in Firefox?
Firefox frequently likes to entirely reset its or print options, or even corrupt the print preferences file. So we'll frequently have to go into we frequently had to go into the about config and delete all the printer entries to get it to print properly again, to get it to pull the settings from Windows. And sometimes that didn't even work. We actually had to go to the settings file in the profile folder and delete that and set up the printer from scratch. Chrome has not had that problem, and at least if we need to, we can go to the system dialog in Chrome, which Firefox doesn't let you do at all. So I can catalog it all for you if you're really interested, but
No, I had a printing problem with Firefox, but I found a way around it, but it's kind of tedious and it's not the one you described, so I won't share it with you.
Yeah, we had minor printing issues between versions a while back, but I haven't seen any issues lately, and that's what we in our consortium support is, you're gonna run Koha in Firefox if you want help with anything. And for us, it's been stable. We haven't had any corruption with it. So I don't know if because we deploy in our library, we've deployed Firefox. I've set certain settings and locked certain things and said this is how it's going to work, and we've locked it up that way in the settings. But we haven't had any issues with the print options being corrupt.
And if you haven't used Firefox in a while, they did basically steal everything from Chrome for the print menu. So it's more comparable now, so it might be more stable.
Yeah, I'll take a look. I hadn't heard that. I do have some suspicions that some of this may rely on or may be related to the print server we're using, but I won't go too far into that either.
Are you on the current
issues that
version?
Say again?
Are you on the current version
Of Firefox?
Yeah.
No, we haven't been using Firefox for a couple of years. I use it myself and it's fine, but I don't have to print anything. So
yeah, it's changed. They had a spell where they were having problems with printing, but it's become more stable. I think it's worth trying again.
Sure. Yeah, I'll give it a crack.
And we do Firefox mainly because there are ways to do quick slips or silent printing within Chrome. I find it a little bit more cumbersome and confusing than the way it's set up with Firefox. That's why we've stuck with Firefox. I also feel like Chrome has a lower print quality if you're using receipt printers, where Firefox performed better with receipt printers. I don't know why. It has something to do with the way they talk to the printers. They both perform the same when you're printing to regular printers, but receipt printers, there was a huge difference in quality. But and so those issues are what kept us going in Firefox. If it weren't for those issues, I would have made the attempt to make the standard Chrome.
what I found is I've had the exact same issue that Christopher mentions with Firefox versus Chrome, is where if I print a receipt on a Canon or Epson receipt printer in Firefox, and I print the exact same receipt in Chrome using the same font, same everything, the receipts in coming out of Firefox are almost always more readable. But one of the ways that I've dealt with a lot of the Chrome issues is to make sure that there's CSS in the notice templates and the receipt templates that specify paper size, font, and things like that. That way, when you're switched, the issue I've always found with Firefox is when you print with one printer from Koha, and then you switch to like if you're using a receipt printer with Koha, and then you switch to print something off of a web page on a different printer. Switching printers is what seems to cause a lot of the issues. And by putting CSS into all the templates in Koha so that they know what the format is for what they're printing, whether it's a receipt or a page, then when you switch back and forth, you don't run into those same problems.
That is exactly it, George. Even within Koha, we would sometimes print, somebody wanted an account summary, we would print that to our printer, our regular printer. And that's where the issues started to happen. Most of our notices have been updated with CSS now. So yeah, again, that's a good tip to try it again. And by the way, that issue with Chrome and thermal printers is a known issue. It's not, you're not crazy.
No, I know I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
At least not on that subject. But I've never. We have a couple of libraries where their IT department at their city or county level insists that they use Chrome instead of Firefox, and they always have receipt issues where they say, people can't read these receipts. They can't read certain things on the receipts sometimes. And it's, and I tell them, you know, switch to Firefox, and they say we can't. So.
Okay, speaking of printing, I've got one more question. And that deals with spine labels. I don't know if you can see this. WY 18.2.A, B, C, all in separate lines when it should be on one. But if I printed it in Chrome, think that would change anything?
I think that's going to depend on the layout you're using in the spine label creator. It seems like there's actually a part of the spine label creator, whether it's in the template. I always forget the templates and the layouts mixed up, but one of them will actually, it'll actually say break between spaces or not.
Yeah.
So I always hate those questions because the spine label creator is a colossal pain to work with.
Yeah, I would recommend if you want more customizability there, downloading the plugin, adding the label creator plugin,
Okay.
because it gives you a lot more control over how your labels come out.
The weird thing, as we've been discussing, it's not consistent. Some of them do one letter on each line. Some labels come out all on the same line.
Here's the thought, Jason. I think a great topic for a presentation would be using the spine label plugin.
Sure. Do you have anybody lined up to talk about that?
I only know of one person that's ever said they use it.
I have it set up for
Well,
something.
Well, that's what I was going to sort of also ask is, you know, what kind of presentations do people want to see at KohaCon? Do you have things that you'd love to see somebody do a presentation on? Just curious.
I'm actually trying to think of a way to justify my going there. And since I am apparently about to learn how to use the spine label plugin, you think anyone else would be interested in learning what I know or will soon?
I think there's somebody right here in Lawrence, Kansas that might be interested in that presentation, Fred. So.
Well, I'd like to see a presentation on Twilio setup, both for SMS and email, and can you do calling as well? I don't know. Anyway, I don't know that we've ever had one. I think that would be interesting. And some more mark modification template type things, and those are things that have come to mind for me.
Depending on how far I get, I might consider doing something, a presentation on what we've learned with Twilio. I love everything that we can do, and I'm working with settings in IBR right now, which are really fun. No, I've been learning a lot of things, particularly about notices and how convoluted the notices are, and some workarounds that we've had to work on since we've expanded our notifications. So I may consider that, but just depends on how much time I have to put things together, plus how far I get with what we're trying to work on.
Well, we're at the top of the half hour. So yeah, if you think of things that you'd love to see a presentation on, even though you think you can't do one, although you can, because I've done one, and if I can do a presentation, anyone can. Send it to the conference committee. Always interested in ideas and what people want to get out of going to a conference.
And as someone who has given a presentation, I would like to say the COA audiences are very polite and friendly and welcoming. They won't try to humiliate you by asking questions. Well, actually, they did ask me questions I didn't know, but they weren't trying to humiliate. But they're one of the nicer audiences I presented to.
So we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Our next general meeting will be May 11th at 10:30 Central. You can do the time zones for yourself because I can't think of it right now. And so we can go ahead and stop the recording.